Welcome to Trade Talk, the podcast where construction pros connect, share, and grow. Brought to you by Contractors Connect, this show dives into real-world issues facing today's builders on and off the job site.
Whether you're swinging a hammer, running a crew, or scaling a business, we've got the insights, stories, and expert tips to help you level up in the building industry.
I'm Sarah White.
And I'm Erin Bacher. And together, we'll be talking shop with industry leaders, tradespeople, and innovators who are shaping the future of construction.
Let's get to work. This is Trade Talk. Welcome back to Trade Talk, the podcast where construction pros connect, share, and grow. I'm your host, Sarah White.
And I'm Lindsay Lord. And today we're tackling one of the most important topics in the building industry, injury management on the job site.
Yes, so we have three guests with us today from Work Partners USA, and they handle return to work and injury management for companies that are in the building industry.
Yeah, so let's welcome Director of Safety and Medical Integration, Angela Bailey, CEO Mark Smith, and VP Jeff Mosley. Thanks for joining us today.
All right, get ready.
Want to grow your network and your business? Join Contractors Connect, the go-to networking group for professionals in the building industry. For just $400 a year, members get 4 complimentary meetup tickets per year, a featured spot in our online directory, visibility at every Contractors Connect event, and more. Whether you're a contractor, vendor, or service pro, there's a place for you here. Join today at contractors-connect.com/memberships, and let's build something great together. Now back to the show.
All right. Thanks, guys, for joining us today. This is our first virtual interview, so we're excited to have you on. Can you introduce yourselves and tell us where you guys calling in from?
Hi, Mark Smith. I'm calling in from hot and humid Austin, Texas right now.
Okay.
Jeff Mosley calling in from cold, windy, rainy Stillwater, Minnesota right now.
And I'm Angela Bailey, and I'm calling in from beautiful, sunny Denver, Colorado.
All right. So you guys are really all over. Tell us a little bit about what your company is.
Yeah, absolutely. So Work Partners got its start really a couple decades ago with brick and mortar clinics all over the United States, from Albuquerque, New Mexico, all the way up to Williston, North Dakota. We had a really nice reputation for understanding how to take care of those workers first and foremost, but knowing there is a company behind them and they don't want and sometimes can't handle and don't need a bunch of unnecessary things being done, like unnecessary time off, unnecessary prescription medication, unnecessary visits to the ER, those type of things that don't necessarily help the worker at all medically and certainly don't help the company. So when we were expanding about 15 years ago, we had some companies come to us and say, look, we're 3 hours away. You guys are great at what you do. What if we just called in and talked to one of your doctors, and he or she can maybe just walk us through these injuries and what we can do? Anything that needs an ambulance would not be us. Anything else is us. And so that's really how this whole thing started. So fast forward to today, we work in every state in America. We work in Canada. We work with about 1,500 companies across the U.S., and we have about 35 doctors that work directly for us, and we are in that early intervention space.
Awesome. Well, what are some of the most common types of injuries that you see on job sites, and what are the causes of that?
In construction industry, some of the most common injuries that we see are probably your hands, fingers being smashed. That's pretty common across the board. Construction industry is one of the top leaders from OSHA's standpoint of an industry that has one of the highest. It's one of the most dangerous industries, if you will, with logging. I think being ahead of that, but I think it runs third. But I think hands are really common, followed by sprains that could lead from shoulders or knees or anything like that. But they run the gamut. But I think most commonly we do see smashed injuries as the most common. That's something that Work Partners, our company, handles as long as strains and sprains. Just like Jeff said, if it doesn't go to the ER, if it doesn't need to go to the ER, I should say, then we can handle it.
Okay.
Yeah. And along those same lines, when an injury does happen on the job site, what's the first step that the on-site team should take?
We always tell them get in a safe spot, of course. And as I kind of gave with the intro, if an ambulance is needed, it's not us. Everything else, get in a safe spot. You call Work Partners at an 800 number. It goes right to one of the doctors, him or herself. So you hear a very friendly voice that says, "Hello, you reach Work Partners. All calls are being recorded." Hit 1 for Spanish. We do have a lot of bilingual Spanish and English docs. Spanish being the second most populated language in the U.S., obviously. And then within seconds, literally, you're communicating with an MD that has experience in occupational health. So this is not a nurse line, no disrespect to nurses at all, and it's not a call center. It goes right to the doc, and from there, we begin the triage portion of the whole injury. We ask the name, number, and company, and then we, just like they would be sitting right in front of you.
So you guys really help to streamline the process for the contractor, the business owner. But what if somebody doesn't have a partner like you? What would they need to do if an injury occurs?
I'll take that. What do they know if the injury occurs? Just like Mark said, if they don't have a Work Partners, they're going to need to establish a process. Every company should have a process, no matter how small you are. You should have a safety program in writing that has been discussed with and understood by all your employees, so they know the process. The time of the injury is not the time to do that. That's when you need to act and have that already in place. But a lot of the companies that are smaller, you don't have the employee base to have all these designated safety people, designated people to take people to the doctor or have this program. So that's why a lot of those companies do outsource to us to perform those functions for them.
Are there standards that are different in every state? Or are you guys nationwide able to assist people from all over, or how does that work?
Mark, do you want to answer that question?
Sure. Yeah, every state is different. OSHA's got the big picture. Every state has their particular laws on how they like things documented, and a couple other aspects of, they call them choice states, where some employees can have the first right to choose where they go. Other states give that to the private provider. But why people use us is because they're trying to solve a particular problem. The problem that they typically want to solve is, it particularly in construction, how do they keep down recordables? And that is key, because a lot of these subcontractors of big contracting companies, what they have to do is they have to have a certain minimum, a certain maximum number of recordable injuries in any given time. And if they go over that, they're not allowed to
Bid.
do contracts. And so if you can't bid on a contract, now you have an existential threat to your business. And just to give you a little bit of history on where the whole trajectory has gone in this business cycle is, someplace back in the 90s, nurse triage showed up to help companies address injuries. And we handle the toughest businesses in the world: oil and gas, heavy constructions. That's our domain. And those two kind of companies, they're always at the vanguard. They're always at the leading edge of what's going on in workers' comp. And everybody back then took on that. We have to address this recordable injury. Let's get nurse triage. That goes on for a couple decades, and it had miraculous effect. I mean, because they were able to take about 40% of the injuries off the books, which means as a non-recordable event. Well, as everything in industry, there is a change and a disruption. Dr. Mosley comes to the fore with these clinics that Jeff was talking about and says, there's a better way we can help these companies stay in that space of finding non-recordable first aid. And what happens is then we implemented this triage, this injury intervention system using doctors. And that difference between nurse and doctors is about 40%. So nurses can handle about 40, we handle about 80. And if that is a meaningful difference to people listening to this podcast, then we're an alternative to help pull down those injuries. And so that's really the nut of the value that nurse or MDs offer to the mix.
Right. And obviously it's what you're offering is a lot less expensive than doing it in-house, and it's a lot more attainable for small companies and contractors who just don't even have the volume to need somebody, on salary.
That's a great point. What Work Partners is really doing, it's sort of democratizing the way injuries can be handled even by the small companies. So the big companies use us because they have the resources to go out and identify solutions like us. And what we really want to do is find a way to deliver these big company aspects of injury prevention, medical management, and recordability mitigation, and helps the small employers do that. That's really where our heart is. And so the more we're able to do that, the better we feel. And, we like to think, well, we do think this way. So we want to help the companies who are building America to build America better. And so when we do that, when we show up for these small companies doing that, we can really move the needle for that company, their employees who really need that kind of engagement to keep the production and the whole process going. And that means a lot to us, and that's why we do it.
Yeah, that's great. I think that's a great service that you guys offer. My family's in the construction business, and I know at times we've had kind of a safety OSHA person on staff, but that's not always, hasn't always been the best fit for us. So something like this is great and definitely needed, especially for big and small, I think.
If you're in the construction industry and your marketing feels more like a punch list than a plan, it might be time to call in the pros. At Bespoke Consulting, we help contractors and construction businesses get noticed with branding that builds trust, websites that convert, and marketing strategies that actually move the needle. Want to grow your business without wasting time or money? Start with Bespoke. Learn more at bespokeconsulting.com. If you could give one piece of advice to construction business owners when it comes to injury prevention and management, what would it be?
I would say have a process in place like before. A lot, if you don't have there's a lot of resources online. But sometimes you need someone to put that together for you, but you need to have that process, a safety program in place. You can talk about safety, but if you don't have an outlined program in place, and instruction to employees and steps to follow, have expectations, then you're going to fail. Most people, most construction companies, we know how to focus on, operations. We know operations. We know how to get the job done, but our most valuable asset, or your most valuable asset as a construction company, are your people. And let's face it, they're going to get injured. Somebody's going to get injured. It just happens. It's construction. Somebody's going to get injured. So having a good safety program in place and having a program for injury management is crucial and critical. You want to keep your people. You want to keep them happy. You want to bring them back to work. So having all that outlined is crucial in construction. And I think that's something that we have a really good team at Work Partners that have all types of knowledge, and that's why Work Partners brought me on as a health and safety person, because I understand that side of the house and I can help our clients in that aspect, and then along with the medical side. So it's just a great dynamic that we have going on, and a great service that we can offer to the construction companies out there.
Yeah, let me dive in on what Angela just said, if I can. So I'm the CEO, and we knew we had this gap in our offering, and that was this health and safety person. So, obviously we're good because our team is doctors at how to manage injuries, but we needed to bolster up to make ourselves more robust in that health and safety domain. And how do we show up better for the health and safety people at organizations? And that's why we brought Angela on. Now, the key aspect of that is a couple things. One is engagement, and which is engaging supervisors and injured workers to help that HSC do their job better with regard to injury management. What we've learned from Angela is that whenever you're a health and safety, just imagine you're a health and safety person. Whenever there's an injury, you're sort of T-boned because you have to drop everything and then focus on that. They've got 1,000 other things to do. And if you don't have a safety person, somebody in that company has to manage that. And so what we're trying to organize ourselves to do for clients is give them these resources that keeps them doing their prevention side of it, and let us manage that whole medical side of it. And then, so we're not T-boning anymore. We're working in parallel for them.
Yeah, that's great. Angela is my aunt, and I remember being on vacations with her and her phone just buzzing nonstop when somebody got hurt.
Yeah.
All my life, exactly.
Yeah.
What else, Lindsay?
Last question. I think you've kind of answered it, but I know that there's definitely legal and insurance reporting requirements. I assume that you guys help with that process as well. It sounds like you start from the beginning and take it all the way to the end for your clients. Is that right?
Yes. So there, OSHA requires, I think, any employer with 10 or more employees, you have to report on an OSHA 300 log. Anything, unless you have a fatality in construction, you have to report it regardless. But if you have 10 or more employees, you're required to report to OSHA. In work comp, pretty much in construction, you have to have workers' comp insurance if you have one or more employee. So what we try to do for construction companies is it, like as Mark was saying, I know as a safety person, I know as supervisors out there, that's not something you get trained in. You're not trained on how to deal with these people and what you're trying to mitigate. So this is something that, again, a service that we can provide or and advise on and keep those workers' compensation costs down. They say that I think 5% of your claims are 80% of the cost of your work comp claims. So it's huge. Just one claim can take a small construction company out of business if it goes bad. So those are things that those are the things that we can help with, because we know these laws, we know the state laws, we know all the regulations, and you don't have to maneuver it because we're already there and we can help you with that.
You guys are already experts at this.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, we like we said, we work in all 52 states. We have something going on in Canada, so we know how to maneuver the regulations in each state.
So as Jeff said, we started off in this triage space, and I don't like calling it triage because we're injury intervention, we're doctors, and we don't triage like, okay, now go here. It's like we try to help companies resolve cases in the field as first aid. So that's our core function. That was our bread and butter for many years. And we had more and more clients asking like, okay, well, this guy went in, what do we do to help us? And so now we have a complementary program because they're tied at the hip like this. So we have triage. If they have to go in, we have this medical management service. And so the triage, so think of it this way. Triage helps your TRIR, the total recordable injury rate. And then medical management helps on the cost. And we call it, when the case goes in, what we try to do is compress the time and migrate it in order of severity down to squeeze it so we can get these things resolved as fast as possible. Mm-hmm. And that, at the end of the day, that's where the money is. So how do we compress and migrate to save money? how do we manage injuries in the field to lower total recordable injury rate? And that's a dynamic combination that, that's reserved for the big Fortune 500 companies. But we've developed a program where it's priced right, and the service is right with the right technical people to manage it in the field with our partner clients.
Looking to grow your business and your network? Join us for the next Contractors Connect meetup, Thursday, July 10th from 5 to 7 p.m. at Hotel Indigo in Panama City. It's your chance to connect with contractors, subcontractors, and home industry pros who are building the Gulf Coast together. Tickets are just $20. Grab yours online today, and don't miss this opportunity to make meaningful connections that matter. Contractors Connect, where the industry meets.
We want to do a rapid fire round of myth or fact, and we're going to give you some myths or facts, and you can tell us what you think.
Yep. So I will get started with the first one. You don't need to report minor injuries if they don't require medical care. Is that a myth or fact?
Who wants to take that one?
That's your domain.
Okay, you don't need to report a minor injury.
You don't need to report minor injuries if they don't require medical care.
True. It's a fact. If they don't, if that's something that work partners can intervene in, if it doesn't need to go to a clinic, it doesn't, as OSHA calls it, require medical treatment, then beyond first aid, then it doesn't need to be reported to OSHA.
Okay.
Okay.
Most injuries happen on the first day back after time off.
Anybody?
I think we're still in your domain, Angela.
Okay. First day back after time off, I'd say probably overall that is common. They also happen on a Friday afternoon. That's a common thing.
But are the injuries myths or facts?
Yeah, exactly. The injury.
Yeah, and the first day of hunting season too. But also new employees have a much higher incident rate than seasoned employees.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay, I've got another one. OSHA is only for big commercial sites.
Angela?
Yeah, I think we answered that one. If you have 10 or more employees, you must report to OSHA. Unless it's a fatality, anybody has to report it.
Okay.
You can't bring an injured worker back unless they are 100% healed.
Myth. Light duty programs are critical in every industry. You should always have a light duty program and return to work if they can work in any capacity.
Okay.
What about back braces prevent all lifting injuries?
I'll speak to that. That's a total myth. That just to add some color to that whole back brace thing was a money-making operation for a lot of people who were involved in it.
Huh.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Didn't know that.
Good to know. Okay, reporting an injury will raise my workers' comp rates.
Recording.
Well, that's true.
Yeah.
The key is reporting the right injury. And that's what we were sort of talking about. If you can manage it in the field as first aid, you can take 80% of those off the books and never have to report them because they didn't become the definition of a recordable.
Awesome. I don't have any more myth or facts. I've learned a lot today.
I have too. So why don't you guys tell us how people can learn more about your services?
Go ahead, Jeff.
Learn more about Work Partners. Is that what you said?
Yeah. What would somebody do if they are interested in working with you guys?
Well, a couple different ways. They could, if you have my information, for example, please share with them. They're welcome to give me a call. They're welcome to text me, email me. They can go to our website at workpartnersusa.com. That will link to me eventually and a few other people. And then what I tell people is, let's just have a very brief conversation about what we do and how we might be able to help. When I'm talking to you, I'm not going to hard sell you. If you think that this isn't something that works for you, fine. but within 5 to 10 minutes, you should be able to get a pretty good idea of, all right, this might be something we should add to our program, to our safety process. And if it's not, that's okay. I'm not going to sit and hound you. We make it very painless when we have the initial discussion.
Okay. Well, thank you guys for joining us today and being our guinea pigs for our first virtual interview. It was great talking to you.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Calling all women in construction, this is your moment to build boldly. Join us for the Built to Lead Women in Construction Summit, happening August 21st at the Emerald Grand in Destin, Florida. This one-day event brings together industry leaders for powerful keynotes, breakout sessions, and real talk about leadership, growth, and opportunity in the building world. Space is limited, so grab your ticket now at contractors-connect.com/contracther. Let's break ground together.
That was Myth or Fact. A big thanks to Angela, Mark, and Jeff for breaking down some of the biggest misconceptions in job site safety and injury management.
Yeah, I definitely learned some things I didn't know. So I hope our listeners did too.
If you've got follow-up questions or myths you'd like us to tackle in a future episode, please send them our way. We'd love to feature them in a future episode.
Absolutely. We want to hear from our listeners. You can email us at info@bespokeconsulting.com, or there's a forum on our website, contractors-connect/podcast.
Yeah. And be sure to check out Work Partners USA at workpartnersusa.com for more expert support on safety, injury response, and workforce wellness.
All right. Well, don't forget, new episodes of Trade Talk drop every Tuesday on Amazon, YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. So be sure to like, share, give us a review. We want all of your attention on every single platform.
Absolutely. We can't wait to see you next time.
All right. See you next Tuesday. Thanks for tuning into Trade Talk, powered by Contractors Connect, where construction pros connect, share, and grow.
If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to like and subscribe, leave a review, and share it with your crew.
Until next time,
Stay sharp
stay safe.
and keep building.